Make yourselves comfortable, because what I'm about to tell you isn't just a story. It's a full-blown emotional train wreck that rolled straight through my marriage and left nothing but ashes behind. I came home early, flowers in hand, heart full, only to find my wife tangled in our bed with a man I'd never seen before. What followed? Ice-cold rage. A divorce that reshaped my life. But here's the twist. I didn't just survive it. When I met her 5 years later, she told me something that made my jaw drop. It was a bombshell that exploded in front of me. That news made me go pale. You're about to hear the whole damn thing, from betrayal to the rebuild. Let's go. My name's Clark. I'm 45, been a trucker for over 20 years. I own my own rig, a solid Peterbilt 389, clean red paint, chrome like a mirror. That truck's my second love. She's hauled me through more storms and late nights than I can count. I paid it off 6 years ago. I own my own house. It's brick, with 3 bedrooms. It's not huge, but it has a porch where I can drink coffee in the morning and a garage where I keep everything organized. That house was mine before I ever married Jennifer. Jennifer Mann. She's 38. Blonde, sharp cheekbones, and that walk that gets looks everyone in the neighborhood is watching. Real talk. She's the kind of woman that makes people wonder what a guy like me did to land her. But don't let the pretty face fool you. Jennifer's mouth could strip paint, and she had a habit of twisting words. Hers, mine, didn't matter. She could turn a story upside down and make you question your own memory. We'd been married 10 years by then. One daughter, Abby, 8 years old at the time, all freckles and big eyes. She's my whole world, still is. Anyway, this all happened mid-December. Roads were glazed with snow and that kind of bone-deep cold that crawls in through your boots. I'd been hauling freight, supposed to be gone for another 2 days. But plans changed and was able to release early. I figured maybe I'd do something nice. It had been a while since I'd surprised Jennifer with anything. Life gets busy, you forget. So I stopped at this little flower shop outside and picked up a bouquet of white lilies. Her favorite. The drive home was quiet. Just the sound of the tires chewing through icy roads and some old country playing low on the radio. When I pulled into the driveway, it was around 13:30 in the afternoon. Snow had piled up on the shrubs, and the wind had that whistle to it that cuts right through your jacket. Abby was still at school, so the house was supposed to be quiet. I didn't knock, obviously. It's my house. I just turned the knob and stepped inside. First thing that hit me was the heat. We always kept it a little high in the winter. Next thing? Silence. No TV, no music, just the tick of the wall clock and the soft hum of the furnace. I smiled to myself, thinking I'd caught her mid-nap or maybe reading a book in the den. I set the flowers down on the entry table, kicked off my boots, thought about maybe lighting a candle or putting on a pot of coffee before calling out to her. Then I heard it, a slow, rhythmic creaking coming from upstairs. Not the house settling, not the wind. Creak, pause, creak, pause. And just like that, my stomach dropped like a sack of bricks. I stood there, still in my flannel and jeans, trying to tell myself it was nothing. Maybe she was putting something away in the attic. Maybe the old bed frame was acting up again. But I knew better. You know that moment where your mind starts running faster than your body? Where you feel like your ears are ringing, but no sound's actually happening. That was me. I stood at the foot of the stairs for a good 10 seconds, staring up like I'd never seen them before. And then I started climbing. One slow step at a time. Not running. Not yelling. Just moving like my legs were made of stone. I didn't know what I was going to find. But I knew. Deep down, I knew. Whatever was on the other side of that bedroom door was going to change everything. And I was right. I didn't even realize I'd dropped the flowers. 1 minute I was standing there listening to that sound, and the next, I was moving. Like something took over. Not thinking. Not feeling. Just moving. Up the stairs. I remember the hallway light was off, but the afternoon sun was shining through the window at the end, casting a long shadow from our bedroom door. I didn't kick it in. Didn't shout. I turned the knob and opened it slow. And there they were. Jennifer and some guy I didn't recognize. Tangled in our bed, my blanket, my headboard, my mattress. The whole thing felt like a punch to the gut I didn't even see coming. Everything stopped for a second. Jennifer screamed. That high-pitched, panicked sound like she didn't believe it either. The guy, skinny, dark hair, maybe in his 30s, froze with this wide-eyed look like a deer about to get hit by a truck. My truck. For a split second, we all just stared at each other. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Then I saw his stuff, his jeans on the chair. His coat. boots, wallet sitting on the nightstand like he lived there. That flipped a switch. I walked over without saying a word and grabbed it all. Handfuls of denim and leather, belt still looped through the pants. I stormed back down the stairs, threw the front door open, and chucked everything straight into the snow. Didn't care where it landed. Didn't care if he chased after it. Then I marched right back up. Jennifer had wrapped herself in the sheet and was sitting at the edge of the bed, crying. Big crocodile tears already running down her face, smearing her mascara into 2 black trails. Clark, wait, please, I can explain. But I wasn't listening. I went straight to the closet. Yanked the sliding door open so hard it banged off the frame. Started grabbing her clothes, one hanger at a time. Dresses, sweaters, jeans, whatever I could grab. Some of it I ripped clean off the hangers. Walked back to the hallway, opened the window above the stairs, and started pitching them outside. Shirts fluttered into the snow. Scarves tangled in the bare branches of the maple tree. I went back for more. She was still crying. Still begging. Please don't do this. Please, Clark, just stop. I didn't answer. Didn't yell. My body was calm, cold, mechanical. I didn't feel anger, not in the way most people think of it. I felt hollow. Like the part of me that could react had already left the room. More clothes. Her makeup bag. Hairdryer. Curling iron. Out the window. Some of it hit the porch roof and slid off. Some hit the ground with a thud. I remember watching her boots bounce off the steps and disappear into the snowdrift. The guy, the stranger, didn't say a word. He just grabbed the phone I'd missed off the nightstand and ran. Barefoot, no clothes. He came down the stairs, went through the front door, gathered his things, dressed quickly, and fled in an unknown direction. I didn't care where he ran to. I didn't want to see his face again. Jennifer followed me down a minute later, still wrapped in that sheet. Her legs were shaking. Her voice was breaking. She kept saying things like, it was a mistake, and it didn't mean anything. At one point, she dropped to her knees in the hallway and tried to grab my hand. I pulled it away like it was on fire. That's when she started screaming. Not yelling words. Just these awful, guttural sounds that I swear I'll never forget. It wasn't like she was upset because she got caught. It was like the world around her had started collapsing and she didn't know how to stop it. I didn't say anything. I went back up one more time. Grabbed her coat, her purse, her phone charger from the nightstand. Dropped it all at the top of the stairs. She picked them up through her sobs, still trying to say something. Still trying to explain. But I didn't give her the dignity of a conversation. She didn't say a word after she stepped out the front door. Jennifer stood there for a minute, her hair messy, her coat barely zipped, staring down at the snow-covered porch where her things were scattered. I didn't say anything either. I stood in the doorway with my arms crossed, watching her, waiting for her to move. Eventually she bent down, slowly, like her limbs had turned to wood. She started grabbing handfuls of clothes and stuffing them into the bag, muttering to herself. I could hear her sniffling between gasps of breath. Get your things, I said. All of them. She looked up, blinking fast, mouth open like she wanted to say something, but nothing came out. Then she stood, shaky, and disappeared around the side of the house. I figured she was heading for the backyard to grab the stuff I'd tossed out the upstairs window. After about 20 minutes, she stood at the door again, this time with her car keys in one hand and her purse in the other. She finally spoke. I'm going to Mandy's, she said quietly, just to get settled, and then I'll go pick up Abby from school. I nodded once. No words. No eye contact. She hesitated like she was waiting for something. A response, maybe even forgiveness, but I had nothing left to give. She pulled the door shut behind her, and I watched from the window as her car reversed down the driveway, wheels slipping a little on the ice before catching. Once she was gone, the house felt like a church after everyone's left. Quiet. Still. Every sound echoed. The hum of the fridge, the tick of the baseboard heater. Eventually, grabbed my coat, and got in the truck. I drove straight to the courthouse. I didn't call a lawyer, didn't talk to anyone. I decided to file for divorce myself, and not even procrastinate for a minute. Just walked up to the county clerk's window, asked for the paperwork, and filled it out right there on the spot. It took me all of 40 minutes. My hands were steady the whole time. I didn't hesitate. When I got home, her car was already back in the driveway. I wasn't surprised. Abby was with her. I could hear them inside before I even opened the door, Abby laughing about something, chattering in that way only kids can. Jennifer's voice was soft, like she was trying real hard to sound normal. I stepped inside. Abby ran straight to me, threw her arms around my waist. Daddy, you're home early. I knelt down, hugged her, kissed the top of her head. Yep, had a change of plans. Jennifer stood a few feet away, holding Abby's school backpack, eyes red and swollen. She didn't say a word, just watched us, like she wasn't sure if she still belonged in that space anymore. Why don't you go put your things in your room, sweetheart? I said to Abby. She nodded and skipped off down the hallway. Once she was out of earshot, I looked straight at Jennifer. You have 30 minutes, I said. Grab whatever else you need and go stay with your parents. Leave the keys on the counter. Her lips started to move, but I cut her off with a shake of my head. Don't. Just don't. Tears welled up in her eyes again, and her breath came out in a shaky mess. Clark, please. I didn't mean for it to happen. I wasn't thinking. Doesn't matter, I said flatly. She took a step closer. I backed up one. You think saying sorry changes this? I asked. Go to your parents. She broke then, right there in the kitchen, dropped her purse, covered her face with both hands, and just cried like a faucet had been turned on. But I didn't move. I didn't comfort her. I didn't even blink. Eventually, she wiped her face, grabbed her things, and left again. We told Abby that Mom had to help Grandma for a few days. That was all. For now. For days passed like a long winter night, quiet, cold, and full of thoughts that wouldn't quit rattling around my head. I filled out the divorce paperwork, line by line. No hesitation, just steady hands and a tired heart. Took it to the post office and sent to her parents' address. That felt final, in a way. Like putting a lid on something that had already started rotting. The trial date came back sooner than expected, 6 weeks out. Enough time to brace for it, not enough time to forget. I hadn't spoken to Jennifer since I told her to go to her parents. I figured that was it. We were done. Then she called. Clark, she said. Her voice was quiet, unsure. Can I come back home? Just until the trial. For Abby. I didn't say anything right away. I'll stay out of your way, she added. I'll take the spare room. She's confused, and I don't want her to think I disappeared. There was a long pause. I could hear her breathing through the line. I hated that I still recognized it. Fine, I said finally. Spare room. That's it. She whispered thank you, but I hung up before she could say anything more. She showed up the next day around noon. Abby was still at school. Jennifer had 2 bags and her eyes looked like she hadn't been sleeping much. She didn't try to hug me or talk. Just walked in, set her things down in the guest room, and shut the door. When Abby came home, she ran into her mother's arms like nothing had ever happened. Jennifer smiled through tears, brushing Abby's hair back behind her ears, asking about school. I watched from the kitchen doorway. Felt like I was watching strangers. Abby asked if everything was okay. Jennifer glanced at me, then back to her. Mommy and Daddy just had a little fight, she said softly. But everything's okay now. I didn't correct her. That night, Jennifer made dinner. She set it all down like it was a normal Tuesday evening. We ate mostly in silence. Abby chatted here and there, talking about spelling quizzes and her art project. I nodded when I was supposed to, smiled when she looked at me. Jennifer barely said a word. After dinner, she washed the dishes. I helped Abby with her homework. Same house, same routines, but nothing felt right. The air between us was heavy. Every sound echoed too long. Even the tick of the kitchen clock started to bother me. Jennifer stayed true to her word. Slept in the guest room. Kept her voice down. Walked on eggshells. Some nights, I heard her crying in the bathroom. Tried to muffle it with a towel, but the walls aren't that thick. I never said anything. During the days, she cleaned more than usual. Scrubbed the floors, dusted the blinds, even washed the windows, inside and out. She started packing Abby's lunch again, left little notes in the bag like she used to. Have a great day, sweetheart, with a smiley face. We didn't talk much. When we did, it was clipped and mechanical. Do you want coffee? Dinner's ready. The laundry's done. No real conversation. Just exchanges of necessity. At night, I'd sometimes sit on the porch, bundled up in my old coat, sipping coffee and staring out into the dark. The silence out there matched the silence inside. She tried, in her own way. Left my favorite mug out in the morning. Bought the good peanut butter again. Folded my shirts the way I liked them. But I didn't care. Whatever piece of me used to light up when she came in the room, it was gone. And I think she knew it, too. Sometimes she'd glance at me when she thought I wasn't looking. Not with anger or pride. Just this hollow expression. Like she was staring at something she'd broken and didn't know how to fix. And I didn't hate her. I didn't love her either. I just didn't feel anything anymore. And somehow, that was worse. The morning of the trial, the sky was still dark when I got up. I poured a cup of coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and just stared at the steam rising. Jennifer was already awake. She stood near the sink, hair pulled back, eyes hollow. She didn't say anything, just kept rinsing a clean dish over and over like she didn't know what else to do with her hands. It was the day we'd been both waiting for and dreading. Ubby came shuffling into the kitchen around 7:30, wearing those fuzzy socks with the little hearts on them. Rubbing her eyes, hair a mess. "Morning, Daddy," she mumbled. "Morning, sweetheart." Jennifer turned off the tap, dried her hands, and sat down at the table across from me. Abby plopped down beside her, still half asleep. "Abby," I said gently, "we need to talk to you about something." She looked up at me, then at Jennifer, her little brow already furrowing. "Am I in trouble?" "No, honey, not at all," Jennifer said, her voice shaky. "This isn't about you. It's about Mommy and Daddy." I took a breath, kept my voice steady. "You've probably noticed we haven't been the same lately. And we didn't want to keep confusing you or pretending like everything's okay when it's not." Her eyes were wide now, awake. She pulled her knees up in the chair, hugging them tight. "We're not going to be married anymore," I said. There it was, out in the open, like dropping a rock in the middle of a frozen lake and watching the cracks start to spread. She didn't speak for a second, just stared at both of us, blinking like she hadn't heard it right. Then her face crumpled. "No," she said, voice cracking. "No, I don't want that." Jennifer reached for her hand. Abby pulled it away. "Why?" she asked. "Why can't you just stop fighting?" "We've tried, honey," Jennifer whispered. "But sometimes people just can't stay together." She shook her head, tears rolling down her cheeks. "But we're a family." I swallowed hard. My voice almost caught, but I held it together. "We still are," I said. "We always will be. You're the most important thing to both of us. That doesn't change." She wiped her nose on her sleeve. "Did Mommy do something bad?" That stopped me cold. I looked at Jennifer. Her hands were clenched in her lap. She stared down at the table for a long second, then looked up at Abby. "Yes, sweetie," she said softly. "Mommy made a big mistake. And it hurt Daddy. And it hurt our family. And I'm so sorry." Abby started crying again, this time harder. Jennifer pulled her into her lap, and this time Abby didn't fight it. She buried her face into her mother's shoulder, sobbing the kind of sobs that come from way down deep, the kind that shake a person from the inside. I just sat there, hands on the table, trying not to break apart in front of them. We didn't rush her. We just let her cry. After a while, she quieted down. Her breathing steadied. We didn't have to say much after that. The truth had been spoken. And even though it hurt like hell, it also felt like the beginning of something honest. At least for her. We had breakfast in near silence. By 9:30, we were ready to leave. Jennifer had packed a small bag for Abby. We'd arranged for her to stay with Jennifer's parents while we went to the courthouse. They lived about 20 minutes away, in a little house on a quiet street with a big backyard. Abby loved it there. The car ride over was quiet. Abby stared out the window, Rabbit clutched tight in her arms. Jennifer sat beside her in the back seat. I kept both hands on the wheel and my eyes on the road. When we pulled up to her grandparents' place, Abby didn't move right away. I turned around in the seat. "I love you, kiddo," I said. "No matter what." She looked up at me, her eyes still red and puffy. "I love you too." Jennifer gave her a long hug, whispered something in her ear again. Then we watched her walk up the steps. Her grandma opened the door, pulled her into a hug, and took her inside. Jennifer and I sat in the car for a few seconds after that. Then I started the engine, and we drove to court. The courthouse was colder than I expected, both in temperature and in feeling. Jennifer and I barely said 2 words to each other on the ride there. Just sat in silence while the heater hummed and the windshield wipers squeaked on low. We got there early. I wanted to be prepared. I wore my best jeans, button-up shirt tucked in, boots clean. Didn't want to show up looking like some washed-out trucker who couldn't care for a kid. Jennifer wore a black dress and her hair pulled back neat. She looked like someone headed to a job interview. And in a way, I guess she was. We didn't have lawyers shouting across a courtroom or anything like that. It wasn't dramatic like you see in movies. It was a quiet hearing in a plain room with a judge who looked like he'd heard 1,000 of these stories before and knew how most of them ended. Jennifer's argument was that she had always been Abby's primary caregiver, that she was home more, that she handled school pickups, doctor's appointments, made the meals, and kept the routines going. And she wasn't wrong, she had done all of that. But I had the house. I had the steady income. I wasn't some part-time paycheck or weekend visitor. I'd planned ahead, saved, paid off debt. And more importantly, I was staying put, not bouncing around, not unsure where I'd land next. When the judge asked about our living situations, I told him the truth. That the house was mine before we ever got married. I bought it 5 years before I even met Jennifer. Paid every mortgage bill, every repair, every upgrade. It was more than just a house. It was Abby's safe place, her home base. Her bedroom, her drawings taped to the fridge, the growth marks penciled into the pantry doorframe. Jennifer said she'd find a new place, something stable, but the judge didn't seem too convinced by plans that hadn't happened yet. Words on paper don't mean as much as roots in the ground. He asked about work, schedules, flexibility. I told him I was no longer on the road. And I shared my plans for the future. I will have a man working for me, and I will get money and take care of orders. The schedule is flexible. Jennifer's voice got tight when she spoke. She said she deserved a chance to rebuild, that Abby needed her mother. Again, she wasn't wrong. I never said she didn't love Abby. But love doesn't always win out in court, structure does. When it came time to make the decision, the judge took a few moments to review everything. Felt like an hour, even though it was probably 5 minutes. Then he said it. Abby will live with me full-time. Jennifer would visit her twice a week and on holidays. That was the decision. Jennifer blinked a few times, but didn't argue. She nodded, eyes wet, jaw clenched tight. I could tell it hit her hard. As for the property, the judge laid that out too. The house stayed mine. No dispute there. But everything we'd earned together, savings, furniture, joint accounts, some small investments, that had to be split down the middle. It was fair. I didn't fight it. Jennifer got her half. I paid her out in cash, straight from the savings account I'd been building for years. Hurt like hell to see that money vanish, but I didn't want to drag this out. She signed the paperwork with a shaking hand. I did too. And that was that. 10 years, over with 2 signatures. We stepped out into the parking lot, the wind cutting across like a blade. Jennifer stood there a minute, staring down at her phone like it had answers. I tucked the folder under my arm and looked toward the truck. Let me know if you need anything for Abby, I said, not unkindly. She looked up, nodded once, but didn't speak. We drove back to pick up Abby. Jennifer was quiet the whole way. I dropped her off at her parents', and she hugged Abby goodbye in the driveway. Abby didn't cry, just asked if Mom would come over for dinner sometime. Jennifer promised she would, but didn't say when. That night, after Abby went to bed, I sat alone at the kitchen table with the documents in front of me. Divorce decree, custody agreement, property settlement. The house was still mine. My name on the deed. My truck parked outside. My daughter down the hall. But it didn't feel like winning. It just felt like surviving. After the dust settled, real life came back swinging. Fast. I made a decision early on. I wasn't going back on the road. Abby needed me home. That was the whole point. Didn't make sense to fight for custody just to disappear into another state every week. So I took a chance. Gave the keys to my truck to my old buddy Travis. I trusted him. We used to run routes together before he settled into warehouse work. I told him he could take the long hauls, keep it moving, and we'd split everything down the middle. 50-50. He'd drive. I'd handle maintenance, paperwork, booking, and dispatch. It wasn't easy at first. Income dipped. There were weeks I had to make calls just to find a load that paid enough to cover fuel and still leave something in both our pockets. But we made it work. I'd get up early, get Abby ready for school, pack her lunch, braid her hair the way she liked, not perfect, but good enough. Then I'd spend the day on the phone, scheduling loads, dealing with permits, checking in with Travis on the road. After school, Abby would come home, kick off her shoes, dump her backpack, and go straight to the kitchen table to draw. 2 years in, things started to look up. I'd saved just enough, penny by penny, to put a down payment on another used rig. It wasn't as pretty as my first, but it ran solid. Found a driver through Travis, a younger guy named Dylan, quiet but reliable. I gave him the same deal. Fair split. He was grateful. I was careful. It worked. A year after that, I picked up a third, then a fourth. Now it's been 4 years since the divorce, and I've got 5 trucks under me. 5 drivers I trust, each running different lanes. I handle dispatch, coordinate routes, deal with brokers. I'm always home by dinner. There's a little office now in the garage. Used to be where I stored extra tires and tools, but I cleaned it up. Put in a desk, a second-hand computer, a coffee maker. Got whiteboards up with load schedules and mileage logs. Abby helped me paint the walls a light gray blue and even made a sign, Clark's Dispatch, home of the Road Warriors. She's growing fast. Almost 13 now. Taller than I expected, all arms and legs and wild hair she never wants to brush. She's still into art. More serious about it now. Sketchbooks all over the house. She draws everything. People at the park, birds on the power lines, sometimes even my trucks when she thinks I'm not looking. Her teachers say she's gifted. I believe them. She doesn't talk about her mom much. Jennifer visited regularly at first, as the court should. Then the money started to run out, and she had to go to work to support herself. Time was in short supply, and meetings became much less frequent. They still talk now and then. A phone call here, a short visit there. I don't stand in the way. I never have. But it's clear Abby's world has shifted. I think Jennifer tried at first, really tried, but she couldn't keep showing up half the time and expect everything to feel whole. Kids remember that kind of inconsistency. Sometimes at night, after she's gone to bed, I sit out on the porch with a cup of coffee and just take a breath. Listen to the crickets. Feel the weight of everything I've built since it all fell apart. It's not the life I thought I'd have, but it's a good one. And I built it brick by brick. Not with luck, not with shortcuts, but with steady hands and long days. For Abby. Always for Abby. It was a Saturday in late September when Jennifer showed up again. I'd just finished checking the oil on one of the trucks and was hosing down the driveway when I heard a car pull in slow behind me. I didn't recognize it at first. Newer model. Dark gray sedan. Not flashy, but not cheap either. I turned off the hose and wiped my hands on an old towel. That's when I saw her step out. Jennifer. She looked different. Tired around the eyes. Thinner, maybe. She didn't say anything right away. Just stood there, holding her keys, staring at the house. The siding was new, bright white, with blue shutters. I'd had it redone in the spring. Porch railings too. The lawn was trimmed, flower beds neat. My new SUV was parked under the carport, fresh from a wash, and one of the trucks, a newer Freightliner I'd picked up last year, sat clean and shining in the sun out front. She stepped onto the porch without asking, slowly, like her legs weren't sure what to do. "This looks different," she said finally. "Yeah," I replied, standing by the door, arms crossed. She glanced at the truck, then at the SUV, then up at the new gutters I'd installed myself. "You've done well," she said, voice cracking. I didn't answer, just waited. And then, like something inside her snapped, she dropped to her knees right there on the porch. Her purse fell to the side. One of her heels slipped off. She grabbed my leg with both hands. "I ruined everything," she cried. "I ruined our life. I ruined us, Clark." She was sobbing now, chest heaving, tears streaking down her cheeks. I was stupid. I didn't know what I had. I thought I wanted something different. But I was wrong. I was so wrong. She pressed her forehead against my knee. "Please, Clark. Please, just give me a chance to make it right." I stood still, hands by my sides. Not angry. Not cold. Just done. "Get up, Jennifer," I said quietly. She looked up at me, eyes wild. "Please. I miss her. I miss you." "You didn't just ruin us," I said, stepping back so her hands fell away. "You burned your bridge with Abby, too." She shook her head. No, she's my daughter. She's growing up," I cut in. "You missed it." She froze. "She's not that little girl with the stuffed rabbit anymore. She's taller than you now. She's got opinions. Friends. She's got her own thoughts about what happened." Jennifer wiped her face with the back of her hand, mascara smudging in the corners. "I want to see her. Just talk to her." "She's not here," I said. "She's out with friends. Like most girls her age on a Saturday afternoon." She sat back on her heels, eyes glassy, lips trembling. "I never stopped loving her," she whispered. "Then maybe you should have shown up more than once every other month," I replied. She closed her eyes like that stung. I didn't say it to be cruel. I said it because it was true. She got up slowly, dusted off her knees, and picked up her purse. Her hands were still shaking. She stared at the door, then at me. Tell her I stopped by." I nodded once. "I will." She turned and walked. Before she got to the car, she turned back around. "Clark." I raised an eyebrow. "I really am sorry. But you should know. This is not your daughter. I never told you that." "I'm sorry, it just happened." I was in a stupor. I didn't want to believe it, but I didn't care. I loved my daughter, I had raised her, and she was mine. I didn't even bother checking it out, doing DNA tests. I didn't need to. And even if they had, it wouldn't have made a difference. I looked at her, not the woman she used to be, not the one who broke my heart, but just a person. Human. Worn down by choices she couldn't undo. I didn't say anything back to her, just stepped inside and closed the door. She hasn't come by since. Abby still hears from her now, and then a birthday card, a text, sometimes a walk in the park when schedules line up. But the visits got fewer, the calls shorter. Abby stopped asking when her mom would come around next. She stopped needing the answer. The past doesn't haunt me. It just doesn't matter anymore. Because Abby's life? It's not about Jennifer now. And neither is mine. Share your thoughts in the comments. What do you think? Should I have forgiven my wife for the sake of the child? If you liked the story, subscribe to the channel and give us a like.